Hi, this is Luis Souza from rawveganpower.com, and I'm very proud and honored to say that I have here today with us Brigitte Mars. She's an herbalist, a raw food chef, and author of many books. One of her many books, I would say one of the most famous is Rawsome, that is a raw food diet book. Brigitte Mars is also a columnist in Huffington Post, where you can find lots of great stuff from her too. She has a YouTube channel where you can see many of her beautiful and very instructive videos. So, after this little introduction, I'm going to change here to my face. And welcome, Brigitte. I'm very honored to have you here today.
Thank you so much. A pleasure, Luis.
Yeah, I was reading your all the things I shouldn't say a resume because it's so many things that you made. I'm really impressed, and you are a raw foodist for how many years now?
Since 2000, not 100%, but high raw, and I love raw foods. I eat mostly raw foods, but since 2000, so about 13 years.
13 years, but you are in this health path much longer than this.
Yes, I'm an herbalist, a medical herbalist, so I help people find healing plants that they can use, and I'm a natural food chef as well, and I work with really helping people to find what food, what herbs, what supplements, essential oils, acupressure, affirmation, anything natural I can think of that can improve people's health.
And tell us, how did you start on the raw food diet then?
I've done a lot of different things. I became a vegetarian when I was 15 years old, just from reading a book called Autobiography of a Yogi. And I started doing yoga and meditation. And then in my teens, I lived in the Virgin Islands and opened up a vegetarian restaurant there. And I also had a vegetarian restaurant in Miami called The Supernatural. During that time, I first read a book on raw foods called Survival into the 21st Century by Viktoras Kulvinskas. So I started doing raw foods then in the early 70s, maybe mid-70s, growing wheatgrass and sprouts and making, Essene breads. But when I moved to Colorado to attend massage school, everybody said, no, it's too cold to eat raw foods. Forget raw foods. Cook everything. Study macrobiotics. So I studied macrobiotics with Eveline and Michio Kushi. And so I did that. And, and then my daughter, I have a daughter who's a model, Rainbeau Mars.
Yes.
So she went to Hollywood to make a movie, and Woody Harrelson was in the movie, who's very into raw foods. And so after a few weeks of her living in Hollywood, she called to say, Mom, I have a new roommate. His name is Giuliano, and he's written a book called Raw, the Uncooked Book, and you need to meet him. And I was very, Rainbow, I hear that models have eating disorders, and I did raw foods a long time ago, and I'm a nutritionist, and I wrote all these books, and I know everything. But then when I went to Los Angeles to save my daughter from her deficient diet, I just said, oh my God, she looks wonderful. So that same weekend, I met David Wolf, and I met another raw foodist, Jeremy Saffron. And I just said, the universe is trying to tell me something. I'm going to try it for a year. So, 1 year became, 10 years, became 13 years. And we both are still very into living foods.
Fantastic. I was going to ask you about Rainbow, your daughter. And I thought that you influenced her, but it was the opposite side, right?
Well, it was the opposite. Yeah. So how wonderful that parents can still learn from their children.
Fantastic. And, You look very young, you know, but I read that you have 40 years of herbal medicine practice, right?
Thank you so much. I'm actually a grandmother 3 times.
Yes, and I was wondering, well, how old is she? Because she looks 40.
Well, thank you. So your question, I forget what your question was, Luis.
Well, if you can reveal, I would like to know how old are you?
Oh, I'm 60.
Oh, you don't look
Oh,
60.
thank you.
I would
Well,
say 40, and I was thinking, when did she begin this? Because it's not possible, right?
well, my grandmother, who was French Canadian, was a practitioner of folk medicine, and she really inspired me to, learn about the herbs. And so I would go to Canada and visit my grandmother, and her medicine was things like, apple cider vinegar and cabbage leaves and coconut and lemon juice and baking soda, salt, garlic, honey. And I grew up in upstate New York, and it was like, no, no, I don't want a shot. I want honey and lemon. I want apple cider vinegar. I want garlic. No, keep the shots away. So at a very young age, I thought that my grandmother's medicine was much better than
Oh,
the drugs.
that's so cool.
Yeah.
So that's so cool to hear that your grandmother influenced you as well. Fantastic.
Yes.
And what do you do on a daily basis as a
Well,
diet right now and exercise as well? Because you look awesome, gorgeous, and you don't seem 60 by nothing.
Well, I have so much energy. This morning I woke up about 7 o'clock, and I do a few different things in the morning. I do the Tibetan five rites, which are in my book Beauty by Nature. It's a series of five very simple exercises. I stand on my head. I have a little kind of a stool where you can stand on your head and not put pressure on your neck. I jump on a trampoline. I have a rebounder. I drank some lemon and water, and then I did have a cup of yerba mate, which I like very much. And then very often I'll do a fruit facial. I'll take some kind of fruit and put it on my skin for 5-10 minutes while I do some exercises and then rinse it off. But this weekend we had a snowstorm. So not only after I did my fruit facial, I went and took snow and I put like snow all over my face
Oh,
because
that's so
it's
cool.
it is definitely cool. It's geometrically,
Cool.
these beautiful crystals that have been bathed in sunlight.
Oh,
So it's like
fantastic.
crystals in sunlight, and so that felt really good. But the snow might melt today. And then I went for a walk, but I do a lot of different things. I don't know how to drive a car. I've never driven a car. I walk everywhere. I take the bus, and I try to do like 10 healthy things a day. This morning breakfast was, I call it a fruit whip. I put in the blender an avocado, some mangoes, an apple, and an orange, and I just blended it, and I ate that. And then I'll have some raw sauerkraut that I made, and I love raw chocolate, raw cacao. Um, but I have a very busy life. I Today I'm going to work at a holistic pharmacy. There's a drugstore a couple blocks away where they sell drugs, but then they also sell herbs and homeopathic remedies, and I help people pick out the right remedy. I also have a private practice, so clients come to me, and I also do phone consults with people all over the world, phone or Skype, and I write books, and I teach at Naropa University. So eating this way gives me so much energy. I think I have more energy than my friends who are in their 20s and 30s.
I really believe that. I really believe, and I'm impressed because you do lots of things. It's fantastic. And do you still have your radio show as well?
Yes, I do, probably for 30 years, a little show called Naturally. And it's just like, I might talk about an herb or a food, like, oh, what you should know about seaweeds, or what you should know about apricots. And I try to make it very seasonal. And it's just a volunteer show, but people say they learn things from me. So I keep doing it.
And I was wondering, as you are an herbal expert, I was thinking, how can you mix the herbs? I mean the healing power of the herbs with the raw vegan diet. I mean, can you put some herbs in your diet to make it better and more healing?
Oh, absolutely. Well, I do believe, Luis, that if we ate correctly, we wouldn't need to heal ourselves with herbs so much. That the food really comes first. And maybe even before the food, our emotional well-being, our relations, how we're getting along with our children and our parents and our friends and roommates and all that. I mean, that's definitely important. And then, we should work on the right food. I don't want to encourage people to use an herb instead of a drug and not look at their diet as well. So for example, if someone has high blood pressure and they say what herb I should take, I might also say, well, have you thought about, meditating or playing more relaxing music or drinking less caffeine or eating less red meat? Have you thought about playing calmer music in your home? And then the herbs come in, things like garlic or hawthorn or motherwort. And then maybe there's vitamin supplements that might help. But I do like to incorporate and use herbs with food. So for example, not only can you make salad with, arugula and spinach, you can also put cilantro in it and basil and rosemary. And but there's, herbs and food really go hand in hand. They're beautiful. They're plants. They grow from the earth. And I believe they're here saying, use me. And for example, dandelion greens, trying to think of the name in Espanol, pissenlit en français. I speak French more than Spanish, but dandelion greens, you can eat them as a salad, but you could also make them into a juice or a tea, and it's a food, but it's also a medicinal plant.
Fantastic. I really appreciate to know this because I started the raw vegan diet and I'm more into fruits, but I'm beginning to put greens in my diet. And then you are telling many greens that you can use even in maybe a smoothie, right?
Um, yes, and I really like to encourage people to use wild greens, not just things you buy from the grocery
Oh,
store, but a lot of things that people think are weeds, like yerba buena, or spearmint, for example, or purslane, portulaca, oleacera, or lamb's quarter. So you can collect the things that are weeds that come up in your garden, learn their names. Many of them are very edible plants that you could be putting in your green smoothie or salad or drying them to make tea.
there are many ways to use the herbs. That's very cool. And you have clients all over the world?
I do. I teach in Iceland. I just came back from teaching in Baja in Mexico. I taught in Germany last summer. So for me, it's a mission. It's like, my prayer is, God, I'm here to help. Let me help you. Let me help re-educate people about the plants. They think all these things are weeds. And Luis, I think we should all be thinking about creating edible lawns. People grow grass and then they use so much water to grow grass and then they mow it down, which is such a waste. If everyone would think about, the same
It's a
amount of
waste.
water could be growing tomatoes and kale and lettuce and maybe even, medicinal plants, epazote, lamb's quarter, purslane. And so rather than having all our food grown out in the country and then shipped to the cities, we should all be thinking about making the Garden of Eden right here, starting with our own yards, and think about how we use our water and our planet's resources.
And how do you think the future of the world in this regard? I mean, diet and and the way the people organize themselves about food.
Well, I think that probably moving towards more vegetarianism is going to feed more people on the planet. whether some people choose to eat meat or not, or hunt or whatever. But I do think, we all have to look at how can we feed everybody. And so I do think vegetarianism has a big future. And I think that a lot of people are going to find out that raw foods gives you more energy, you spend less time in the kitchen, you preserve more nutrients in your food, your annoying health problems go away, the food's delicious, you have more energy, more beauty. So I think that, a lot of people don't get it yet, but if you have a choice between, eating a fresh apple or a jar of applesauce which has been heated, this is what I like to tell people, Luis. I say, if you plant a raw sunflower seed, girasol, right? You plant a raw sunflower seed, it could grow into a 10-foot tall plant and produce a, beautiful flower that's, fragrant, and the bees are just going crazy and, collecting pollen. And then in the fall, you have, 500 seeds from this one seed that you put in the ground. And if you were to put a roasted sunflower seed in the ground, it doesn't matter if you pray over it or put a pyramid or, play Indian ragas, nothing is going to happen. So 2 small seeds, very, very small. One has life, one has potential to create more life. And I tell people, that when people feel bad, in English they say things like, I'm fried, I'm burnt, I'm zapped, as if they've been in a microwave. I'm zapped. Right. And yet they wonder, why do they feel cooked, fried, burnt, and toasted? Don't we want to feel, fresh, raw, alive? I do.
No, and I loved your story about the sunflower,
Yeah,
and
well, not only do I have a daughter named Rainbeau, I have one named Sunflower.
That's right. Yeah, I know that. Well, last question, Brigitte.
Yes.
In one sentence, how do you define the power that you get from being a raw vegan? Or what's your raw vegan power?
I'd say superhuman energy. The power is superhuman energy and the desire and vocation to make the world a better place for all peoples.
Fantastic.
Plants and animals too.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Brigitte. It was a great pleasure to have you here. And you who are watching, go now to BrigitteMars.com and see all the great stuff that this gorgeous and fantastic woman has to offer you. Go there now. Thank you so much, Brigitte.
Many blessings. Thank you.
For you too. Bye-bye.